The days following Azar's departure were filled with a mix of anticipation and busy wedding preparations at Zufishan's home. Her heart longed for his return, but the excitement of the upcoming wedding kept her spirits high. Little did she know that the storm brewing in Alam Shah's mind would soon upend her world. Alam Shah's visits to Zufishan's home grew more frequent. Each time he carried himself with an air of generosity that earned him the admiration of her family. Whether it was a rare spice for the wedding feast or a suggestion for an exclusive venue, he seemed determined to make himself indispensable. Alam Shah Sahab is a true well-wisher, Zufishan's father often said, unaware of the growing unease in Zufishan's heart. She avoided Alam Shah whenever she could, but his lingering stares and veiled remarks left her feeling exposed. One evening, as the family gathered to finalize the guest list, Alam Shah interrupted. "You must include some prominent names," he suggested, his tone confident. "Allow me to handle this. I can ensure your event will be the talk of the town." Zufishan, seated quietly in a corner, glanced at him, her unease deepening. His involvement was beginning to feel invasive. Yet, her father, grateful for the support, agreed without hesitation. A week later, Zufishan's world took its first hit. She was sitting by the window, writing another letter to Azar, a habit she'd formed to cope with his absence, when her younger brother burst into the room, his face pale. "Zufi," he gasped. "Turn on the news." Confused, she followed him to the living room, where her family was gathered around the television. The headline flashed ominously: Pakistani businessman Azar Ahmed missing in Dubai. Her mother let out a gasp, clutching Zufishan's arm for support. Her father sank into the sofa, stunned. Zufishan's heart pounded as the reporter explained that Azar had been last seen leaving his hotel 2 days ago. Authorities suspected foul play, but no leads had emerged. The room spun around Zufishan. She gripped the armrest tightly, her mind refusing to accept the possibility that something terrible had happened to Azar. The days that followed were filled with anguish and unanswered questions. The family contacted Azar's friends and colleagues in Dubai, but no one had any concrete information. Calls to the authorities yielded little progress. Alam Shah, ever the opportunist, swooped in during their most vulnerable moments. "Zufishan," he said one evening, his voice laced with false sympathy, "I know how much Azar meant to you. But you must prepare yourself for the possibility that he may never return." Her eyes flashed with anger. "You don't know that. Azar will come back. He promised me." "But what if he doesn't?" Alam Shah pressed, his tone softening. "You deserve stability, a future. Let me offer you that." Zufishan's father, already burdened by the societal implications of a broken engagement, began to waver. "Maybe he's right," he muttered to Zufishan's mother one night. "We can't wait forever. What will people say?" Zufishan overheard their conversation, her heart breaking anew. How can they even think of replacing Azar, she wondered. 2 weeks later, Alam Shah delivered the final strike. He arrived unannounced, his expression grave. "I have news," he said, gathering the family in the living room. "Azar. He's gone." Zufishan's world collapsed. "Gone? What do you mean?" she demanded, her voice trembling. "I've spoken to someone who works closely with the authorities in Dubai," Alam Shah lied smoothly. "They found evidence that Azar has left the country under suspicious circumstances. It's possible he started a new life elsewhere." Zufishan shook her head vehemently. "No. Azar would never abandon us, never abandon me." But Alam Shah's words planted a seed of doubt in her family. Her father, though hesitant, began to accept the possibility. "Maybe it's time to move forward," he said quietly, his voice heavy with resignation. Zufishan's resistance was fierce. "I will wait for Azar," she declared, her voice firm. "I don't care what anyone says." But her resolve was tested when Alam Shah revealed his trump card. He had secretly orchestrated Azar's disappearance. "If you don't agree to marry me," he threatened Zufishan in private, "your family will suffer. I'll make sure your father loses his job. Your younger siblings' futures will be ruined. And as for Azar, you'll never see him again." The weight of his words crushed her spirit. For the first time she felt truly powerless. A week later, Zufishan stood in her bridal attire, her face pale and devoid of emotion. The house, once filled with joy and anticipation, was now eerily quiet. Her mother wept silently, while her father avoided meeting her eyes. As the wedding rituals began, Zufishan's heart screamed in protest. Every fiber of her being wanted to run, to fight, to believe that Azar would come back for her. But Alam Shah's threats loomed large. When the Imam asked for her consent, her voice was barely audible. "Kibul Hai," she whispered, sealing her fate. That night, in the grand yet soulless mansion that was now her home, Zufishan sat by the window, staring at the bracelet Azar had given her. Tears streamed down her face as she traced the crescent moon charm. "Azar," she whispered into the darkness, "I'm sorry. I had no choice." In the distance, Alam Shah watched her from the doorway, a twisted satisfaction on his face. To him, this was victory. But for Zufishan, it was the beginning of a nightmare she couldn't escape. Unbeknownst to Zufishan, Azar was alive. He sat in a dark, damp room somewhere far from Dubai, his mind racing with thoughts of escape. "Zufishan," he whispered to himself, "I'll come back to you. I promise."